And as we've just been saying, Gary Lineker is to step back from presenting Match of the Day following his row with the BBC over his politicised tweets.
Well, the broadcaster says he won't present the programme until he's reached an agreed and clear position with the corporation over his use of social media.
Well, the announcement was followed by fellow pundits Ian Wright and Alan Shearer saying they also would not appear on Saturday's programme in solidarity with Lineker. OK, let's talk to our very own Aidan Magee, who's here in the studio with us this morning.
Good morning to you both.
What do you reckon to all of this? I mean, is it a storm in a teacup or is there a valid point here?
It's more than a storm in a teacup. I've never really known anything like this. I mean, this is 60 years this show's been going. It pulls in an audience of between 11 and 15 million on a Saturday night, depending on who's playing. So, I mean, are we seeing an institution become toxic within hours last night? That appears to be what happened from what I was seeing yesterday. We saw, first of all, Lineker being pulled away by the BBC from the duties, then having said earlier in the day that yesterday that he'd be willing to do the show yesterday morning, and then Alan Shearer pulls out, Ian Wright pulls out, so this is pundits gone. Other pundits who may have been asked to fill in, they said they're not going to do it. Jermaine Gina said if he'd been asked, he wouldn't have done it. And then Steve Wilson, the commentator last night, this is different. This is not just the punditry analysis bits between the matches. This is the actual commentators. Steve Wilson from BBC, experienced guy, saying, I don't want to do it. Nobody else is doing it. They're going to have to take the live feed or the world feed commentary. So suddenly the programme's looking a shell of what it was previously. I think it's 60 years it celebrates next year. These rights as well, you have to remember, these are paid for. BBC pays £211 million over 3 seasons. The Premier League aren't going to be happy about this. There are rumours as well. It's only rumours at the moment, but last night it was surfacing that players may not talk to Match of the Day today in the 3 o'clock kickoffs or even the early evening kickoffs. Managers may not talk. It could go that far, and I think this could go further and further. I don't know how many agents and advisors and PRs will be saying to their clients that if you get offered to do Match of the Day, remember, don't do it right now. And you're seeing the fall from grace of a huge programme, one of the jewels in the BBC's crown. In terms of what happens to Gary Lineker, full disclosure, I used to write his column for the News of the World from time to time back in 2010-11. Good guy, really good guy. I know his son as well. I was very surprised that he would get embroiled in this because he never used to be interested in politics up until 5-6 years ago. My worry for him is that nobody ever talks about his football career anymore. He was a magnificent England player, magnificent. 10 goals in 2 World Cups. He scored key goals, big goals as well, not goals against Panama in warm-up games. He scored against West Germany in the semi-final. Nobody talks about his career anymore, and I wonder if he's damaging his legacy from this. I think it was a calculated career move 5-6 years ago for him to venture into the sphere of politics. I think somebody was saying to him, listen, Gary, you're knocking on a bit. You can't go on forever. Maybe you need to start tweeting politics. That's the look these days. I honestly think that. It sounds a little bit cynical, but I do think someone's advised him to do that. And when you do that, it's a risk-reward thing. Some people agree with you, but a lot of people don't. And I think that most football fans...
But also, it's not just that he's tweeted about politics a lot, and that in itself breaks the impartiality guidelines that the BBC runs for everybody else who works for the BBC. I mean, this is the thing. He seems to be the exception to the rule.
He is, but
it's the fact that he referred to comparing what was happening now to Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
And that's the problem here.
Yes, it is. It is, absolutely. He could broaden it out and say it's not quite what he meant, but he hasn't really commented on the actual tweet itself, has he? He just said he stands by what he says, and I think sometimes you can force yourself into a position and not let yourself out. Having said that, this is 50-50 in terms of where the PR is right now.
What do you think the BBC make of their decision? Because it is interesting, isn't it, that they kept quiet all week. Nothing was said really by the BBC. And then last night we heard that Gary Lineker had been asked to step back from Match of the Day. It looks as though they'd entered war without a battle.
Well, I think it's a little bit more... Well, from a PR point of view, I think they wanted a holding position, Ellie. We saw TalkSport earlier in the season. And we had it at Sky when Jamie Carragher spat at a fan. They just put him out to graze for a short period of time, edged him back, just like TalkSport did with Trevor Sinclair back last September when he made those inflammatory remarks about the Queen following just hours after her death. If you listen to TalkSport now, he's back. He's come in through the back door. This is much, much bigger than either of those two, and Carragher was big, believe me. But this is different, and I think they were hoping this time yesterday, OK, we don't want to lose Gary Lineker. He's a household name. I do think he's a very good Match of the Day presenter. Yes, he earns a lot of money, but that's the market these days. However, I think they should have not should have. I think that the plan this time yesterday would have been, because they won't have bargained for the backlash that they got. They won't have bargained on commentators saying downing tools. So I think they wanted a holding position, put him out to graze until the end of the season. It's already March, and then go again maybe in August. I think that's probably what they would have been thinking. They would not have been bargaining for what's happened. Absolutely not.
No, it's interesting.
Do you have any idea of how production staff are feeling? Because as I understand it, Match of the Day is
going
to
last night.
Continue. Yeah, but the on-screen talent have said they don't want to be a part of it. But there's the production team there that still have to put things together.
The lower down the food chain you go, and you look at earnings here, it's important. Those commentators can't afford to stay out of work for that long. I think on a one-off basis it's fine. Production staff, absolutely not. I think they'd be in breach of contract, actually. I know a few people. I know somebody works up there. I spoke to him yesterday. He wasn't minded to down tools or anything like that. But but then I suppose somebody who isn't on screen probably wouldn't be under the pressure to make that statement. But I don't. So I think they can do it on a one-off basis. We'll be interested. I'll tell you what's going to be fascinating tonight: the viewing figures, because a lot of people will watch it in defiance to support the BBC and as an anti-Gary Lineker statement, if you like. A lot of people will boycott it. Don't forget, they get between 11 and 12 million. That's what they pay their £211 million over 3 seasons for. Premier League won't be happy about that, by the way, because they want to see the highlights packages. It's not a big money earner for the Premier League, £211 million in the context of everything they get from Sky and the overseas broadcast rights. But it's strategic for them. They like the BBC because they know that it gets watched. Their product gets out there and it's watched by a lot of people. So we'll see what the viewing figures are tonight. Yeah. And I think we'll see them published quite soon. It'll be fascinating. I've never known a story like this in my life.
Yeah. OK, Aidan...